The screech of metal against metal, the shudder of steel grinding against steel. In the blink of an eye, what began as an ordinary morning commute turned into a nightmare for hundreds of passengers underground. On a cold weekday morning in New York City, two subway trains collided in the darkness of a tunnel. Screams echoed through the cars, sparks lit the cavernous space, and the acrid scent of smoke filled the air. Lives were changed forever, and at the heart of the tragedy stood one man, the train operator. Did he recklessly miss a signal, putting lives at risk? Or was this simply the kind of human error that could happen to anyone under pressure? This is the haunting case of the train operator's split second. The day had started like any other for commuters. Office workers cradled coffee cups, students clutched backpacks, and weary night shift employees leaned their heads against windows, eager to get home. The subway was packed as always. Down in the control cabin, the operator focused on his routine. He'd been with the transit authority for more than a decade, a man trusted with the daily safety of thousands. Yet on this particular morning, fatigue, stress, and the endless monotony of guiding trains back and forth through dimly lit tunnels pressed on him like never before. Signals were everything in the subway system. They controlled speed, spacing, and safety. A single missed signal could mean disaster. On this morning, as his train barreled down the line, passengers were unaware that just ahead, another train had stalled. The signal lights in the tunnel glowed their coded colors. Red meaning stop, yellow meaning slow, green meaning go. And then, in that fateful moment, the operator failed to respond to the red. The crash was instantaneous. One train plowed into the other, crushing the cars like soda cans. Passengers were thrown from their seats, windows shattered, and terrified cries rose above the screeching steel. Emergency lights flickered as chaos consumed the underground. First responders raced to the scene, guiding dazed commuters through smoke and wreckage. Dozens were injured. A handful did not make it out alive. In the days that followed, the city was consumed with grief and outrage. For the families of those killed, nothing could justify what had happened. To them, this wasn't just an accident. It was preventable negligence. News outlets plastered the operator's face across television screens. Commentators debated whether he had been reckless, distracted, or simply overwhelmed by the grueling demands of his job. Investigators pieced together the timeline with meticulous detail. They examined the black box data, reviewed surveillance footage, and interviewed witnesses. The evidence was clear. The operator had missed a red signal. The question was why. Some suggested he had been distracted by his phone, though no evidence of that was found. Others pointed to fatigue. He had been working long shifts with little rest, a problem not uncommon in the transit system. Others insisted that the subway's outdated infrastructure and malfunctioning signals played a role. If the system had been more modern, perhaps the crash could have been avoided. The operator himself was devastated. In interviews, his voice cracked as he described the moment. "I thought I saw yellow. I thought I had more time." His guilt was palpable. He had spent years ensuring the safety of passengers, and now, in one terrible instant, lives were lost on his watch. The courtroom battle that followed was tense and emotional. Prosecutors painted him as careless, someone who had disregarded the most basic rules of his duty. They argued that the red signal was clear, that any competent operator should have stopped the train. This wasn't an innocent mistake, the prosecutor thundered. This was recklessness that cost lives. The defense countered with a different narrative. They spoke of the immense pressure operators were under, the punishing schedules, the understaffed system, and the fatigue that came from years of long shifts. They highlighted the lack of modern safety mechanisms that could have automatically stopped the train when a signal was missed. "He is not a criminal," the defense attorney insisted. "He is a human being who made a human error in a flawed system." Families of the victims sat silently in the courtroom, their grief etched into every line of their faces. For them, justice meant accountability. But for others, especially those who had spent years working in the transit system, it was hard not to sympathize with the operator. The jury deliberated for days. The city held its breath. Was the operator guilty of recklessness, deserving prison time for the lives lost? Or was he simply another victim of an outdated system and an impossible workload? This case became more than just a trial about one man. It became a mirror held up to the city, exposing the cracks in its infrastructure and the human cost of ignoring them. Experts testified about the dire need for automated braking systems. Commuters shared their unease, confessing they had always assumed the trains were safer than they truly were. When the verdict finally came, it left the city divided. Some believed justice had been served. Others saw a man scapegoated for systemic failures beyond his control. But one truth remained inescapable. Dozens of lives were changed forever, all because of one split second in the dim light of a subway tunnel. So what do you think? Was the train operator guilty of recklessness, deserving punishment for his mistake? Or was he a fallible human being, a man caught in a system that failed him as much as it failed the passengers? In that dark tunnel, with only seconds to spare, was this crime or tragedy? For more chilling true crime cases, subscribe to our channel, Guilty or Not.